I just want to thank you, Ori, and I appreciate all you guys being on here today. It shows a lot, about you guys and the things that you do. I appreciate all you guys, and I'm very fond of my time in Israel and coaching there, and I learned a lot more about being a coach there than I have here. I'll put it that way. Obviously there's way different challenges that you face there, football wise and outside of football. And I've used my experience there to help me here. So I want to just kind of let you guys know, sometimes I slip up, some French words come out of my mouth like shit and stuff like this. So just warning you guys now, sorry. Hopefully I don't offend anybody. So we're going to start talking about O-line today. Second. All right, so just a little bit about me. This is my 9th year coaching high school football here in Florida. I started off coaching with the offensive line. The big benefits of coaching O-line, I think, is you learn what's going on the field. There's 5 moving parts. If you add a tight end in, 6, sometimes 2 tight ends, 7. So you really need to understand what's going on the field. I think that if you can start with O-line, you have a good base and everything else works out. I worked for a guy and his first hires were, 2 O-line guys. I think the good programs that I've been with, they always have 2 O-line guys, and the ones that aren't so hot, they have 1. I understand you have some different challenges there, but I think after the offensive coordinator is hired or you figure that out, you need to figure out who's coaching your offensive line. The receivers, the running backs, all that stuff is pretty, but it doesn't really matter if your O-line's not blocking for anybody. And, the reason I coach is to, hopefully make an impact on people and help people out. And, winning and all that stuff is nice, believe me. But, you guys you have a calling and there's a reason that you're coaching or that you're involved. So, kind of find that and then go from there. So with the O-line, the mentality, okay, those guys need to be your hardest workers. They need to have great discipline and technique. The team is going to go as they do. I think, the best examples I can use are just personal examples. And even when I was in Israel, when our O-line that first year wasn't as hot, we just had trouble doing stuff, everything. But as the O-line, especially my last year there, they really bought in and understood, I think what it took to win. Then our team kind of went with them. I'm going to talk to you guys about the importance of planning for those guys. Off season, in season, at whatever you guys want to talk about. It's important to be prepared and have a plan. If you go out there and you're trying to wing it, okay, you're not going to be successful. Those guys are not going to be successful. I also think that having a guy dedicated to coaching O-line is important. As easy as it might be to just say, hey, you guys need to go over there and work, okay? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I sometimes, and I'm guilty of it, I'd send them over there. I'd send the O-line over there and I'd say, all right, hey, you guys, you're going to go ahead. This is what you're going to do. And then I'd look over there and they're grazing like a bunch of cows and they're not doing anything. So have a guy over there. All right, they need to be physical in the run and the pass game, and you need to give them a toolbox, okay? What do I mean by a toolbox? They need to have a set of tools, okay, in order to be successful. But that's on you as the coach, okay? You need to give them different techniques, different things that they can do in order for them to be successful, okay? Play to their strengths, flexible but firm. Okay, you need to put guys in position to be successful. We always talk about quarterbacks and running backs and receivers. All right, this quarterback, he can throw this ball really well, so we're gonna call this. Okay, well, with the O-line, okay, sometimes it's positionally. Sometimes a guy physically, okay, isn't really meant to be successful at tackle. Maybe he's a better guard or vice versa, or maybe he's your center. But you need to play to their strengths. And when I say flexible but firm, okay, you still need to do what you believe in, okay? So whether that's running power, running inside zone, Okay. Hey, that's what you believe in. That's what you're going to teach. That's okay. But also be flexible. And then the biggest thing is to show those guys love. And I really talk to the other position groups about this. When we score a touchdown, the first guys that need to be greeted, okay, are the O-line. The first guys that need to be shown love is the O-line. You know, at first, you know, the quarterback, they throw a touchdown, hand the ball off, and they just run off the field. You need to get your ass back to the O-line, okay, and you need to show those guys some love, because if it wasn't for them blocking down the field, we wanted to score it in the damn first place, okay? So show them love. Sometimes you got to show them a little bit of salt during practice, okay, but show them a lot of love too. And you can ask some of the guys that I coach there. I try to show them a little bit of love. All right, so we're going to get into stance first, okay? And I kind of have some pictures and stuff will go along. The presentation itself, I'll send you if you want it. I also have another presentation that I'm kind of mixing in with this one right now that the O-line coach at Penn State sent me. So I can kind of give you guys some examples with videos and pictures as well. All right, so the first stance we're talking about is a three-point stance, okay? The most important steps are those first two steps. My base or my feet are a little wider than shoulder width apart, okay? The offensive tackles and guards are gonna have a slight stagger with their outside foot, and the toes will be slightly out. Your hand should be in a spot where you could catch your eyeball if it came out of your eyes, okay? Your up hand, okay, the hand that's not down on the ground should be resting on the thigh board, and your eyes should be up. A lot of times those guys in their stance, okay, their eyes are right in the ground. Well, you can't block what you can't see. It's the same with tackling. You can't tackle what you can't see. So your eyes need to be up and on your key, ready to block. So a good picture of this, okay, it's right here, okay? He's got a flat back, okay? Good bend in his knees. You see all of his cleats are in the ground. Some of those guys, okay, are not very flexible, okay? You need to get them to bend in the shower or do something in the bath. A lot of their ankle and hip mobility is really tight, okay? So in the off season, instead of going around and just trying to hit each other, you guys should work on hip mobility and some ankle mobility to make sure that they get all their cleats into the ground. That's where their power is going to come from, okay? First step, okay? With their first step, we always want to gain ground, okay? Whether I'm reach blocking, which means like an outside zone or a stretch, inside zone, we're always gaining ground. It'll be 6 to 8 inches and it will be fast. And the best way I've heard it explained is some guys they'll ask me, do we want to do a power step or a drive step? There's all these fancy names. I think it's dependent on the angle and what you're trying to do, okay? Because not every step is perfect for every situation. It's just like not every defense is perfect for every situation. So we got to understand angles, and those guys got to start, again, that's giving them tools. So I'll teach a drive block where they're stepping more vertical right now, or I'll teach a power step where they are maybe at a more of a 45-degree angle. But those are the tools. So when they come to the sideline, your coaching point isn't, well, what the hell are you doing? Well, no shit, he's not blocking anybody. You haven't given him any tools, okay? So the tool is, hey, that guy's lined up really thick on you, or he's really tight to you. Maybe you should use a drive step instead of your power step because your head's getting across, okay? We want to be on our insteps. That means the inside part of our foot. That's where our power's at. Again, all cleats in the ground. That's hard for a lot of those guys. The big guys, one of the first things I look for is, can they bend? All right. If they're good benders, that means they're going to have good power because their power is in their lower body. The power is not all just up here. All right. The knees will be over the toes, butt up, and weight forward. Okay. And this is talking about the run game. All right. Our elbows tight and our chest stays over our knees, and we do not elevate, and we keep a flat back. A big one is tight elbows. A lot of times we see when guys block, their elbows really flare out. Okay. We want to keep everything in here within our framework. This is where our power is. When you bench press, you don't bench press like this. Okay. You bench press with tight elbows. All right. Now when we get into mix that one up. All right. our second step, okay? Again, we always want to gain ground and keep base through the contact, all right? And then our insteps. When we shoot our hands and make contact in that second step, they should be simultaneous, okay? When we're making contact with the defensive lineman, okay, it should be on our second step, okay? And it should be simultaneous. Again, tight elbows, knees over toes, chest still with a flat back, okay? And the big one, I think, especially there, is finishing the block, okay? Keeping our base through contact, driving the knees, hands and the face in the block, tight elbows, all right? We never want separation, and our chest slowly rises while our hips come through. And finish through the whistle. That kind of goes back to the mentality, all right, with your O-lineman. You know, we used to tell those guys, finish through the whistle. Don't play to the whistle, finish through the whistle. When I hear that whistle as the sound is going, that's when I'm finishing my block, okay? That's when I'm finishing what I'm doing. For those 4 to 6 seconds, however long a play is, okay, we need to be blocking our ass off, okay, and finish blocks, okay? Because as the game goes on, that starts wearing guys out, okay? But if you're just half-ass blocking through a play, well, it's, you know what, it's going to show as the game goes on, okay? Next thing, okay, progression teaching. Have a plan for the offseason and the season, and what can we do without equipment? You know, and this kind of goes back to, I've heard a lot of guys talk about this, especially there. Your best resource is your players, okay? A lot of these guys, all right, that you coach or you might play with, okay, they work in jobs that you can make something out of nothing, all right? I think a lot of times when you guys say, oh, we don't have this or we don't have that, it's just kind of a bullshit excuse, okay? Make it. Find a way. You know, one of the things that I was most proud of is that myself and Mono, who's on here, we made a storage closet out of a bathroom, okay? There's a little tiny ass bathroom in Mascarabatia, okay? And we organized it and made it to a pretty nice equipment room, okay? So now it's not just a bathroom, it's an equipment room. Well, make something out of what you guys have, okay? So instead of saying, oh, we don't have this, we can't do that. Well, your players or your teammates feed off of that energy. So, well, coach said we don't have it or we can't get it, so we can't do it. Well, that's bullshit, okay? Yes, you can do it, okay? Make something out of nothing. You guys will figure it out. And I'm going to show you guys something in a little bit in the videos that you can make, and I'm sure you could find pretty easy, okay? Okay, so now getting into our into a feat, okay? I think a good progression to start with is just those guys' stance, okay? Their stances, okay? So again, we talked about their feet shoulder width apart. So very early on, okay, when we would start stances, okay, we would do everything on command. Okay, what do I mean by that? So I would say feet, and they just get their feet set. Okay, they're still standing up. Their feet are about shoulder width apart. Okay, then I tell those guys get their hand out. So as they get their hand out, they're bending. All right, now I can kind of see, you know, what their hip mobility is like. Do they have good bend in their knees? You know, are they balanced? Then they're going to put their hand down, so their hand will be down in their stance. Okay, and then I'm checking it. So I'm going through and I'm kind of kicking their hands. If I kick their hands and they fall right on their face, they got way too much weight forward. Okay. If I kick them, but they're like really sitting back, that means they don't have enough weight on their hands. Okay. So again, we need to kind of kick and see, hey, their knuckles should slightly be turning purple. Okay. That means they have enough weight on their hands, but we don't want it to the point where they're just tipping over because then they can't move. So after we do their stance on command, we can check their steps. Okay. So again, I can just say, all right, first step. So they're in their stance, taking their first step. Okay. Come back again, first step. Then I can say first step, second step. You can do this all on the whistle. And then you can combine it and have them both simultaneous. A big thing I see is build it from the ground up. Okay. Whatever you think are baby steps, they're not baby steps enough. the O-line, okay, it's so vital and important that you teach things from the ground up. You cannot run before you crawl with those guys, because the second you jump into scheme and doing this kind of block and that kind of block, you've left way too many guys behind, okay? You have to build it from the ground up. And the second step is the same progression, okay? And that's something that I learned it this past week, okay? We always talk about, hey, that guy's first step and really breaking it down. We can break down their second step the same way. They're already in their first step, take their second step and shoot their hands. That's the drill. Go back to command. You're already in your first step, second step, and shoot your hands. Okay? So we need to break every little single thing down. Okay? And that's not just having ideas in your head. That's physically writing it or typing it down, okay, and going out there with a plan. If you don't have a practice plan, if you don't have an off-season plan, you're behind. You're not going to win games that you're trying to win, okay? And whatever your goals and expectations are for your team. I, had goals and expectations to win a lot of games. That's what we were trying to do, okay? And we went out there and practiced and prepared like we were. And if we went out there without a practice plan, shame on me, okay? Especially with these guys. They need the plan, okay? So I'm going to show you guys some boards, okay, and things that you can easily make. And I'll send you guys this presentation too, so you have it, okay, because he's got some really nice cut-ups and drills and things that you can, really break it down. You also need to remember that he's got a lot of time with those guys, okay? This is his second step and really nice equipment, okay? But again, make something out of nothing. So these boards, okay, these are like kind of like a heavy, thick rubber, but you can make them out of wood. You can make these out of anything, okay? Something like this, it's so simple, okay? You know what? Can you have a chute that those guys can go under? Probably not. It's going to be hard. It's going to take a lot of time to build. Would it be nice? Yeah, of course. But this board, okay, you can go to freaking Home Center right now and buy a piece of wood and cut it out, and there you go. Okay, so don't tell me you don't have the resources to get stuff. That's bullshit. Okay? And again, so now, boom, we're working our footwork. Okay? Again, boom, right off. Okay? So these are things that, again, you can work with these guys. Now they're, okay, so this was like their drive step that they were working with their guys. Okay? Then all you need to do, if you want to work a different type of step, okay, is change the angle of the board. So you'll kind of see when they get into their next stuff. All right, they call this their outside zone. Look at the board. Now the angle of the board has changed. Okay, and now, right, instead of working that more vertical footwork, okay, they're a little bit wider with their footwork. Again, boom, first step into the ground, bring the second step. And I'm showing this, I know it's kind of jumping off to another subject, but this is something, all right, that you guys can do and you guys can build, okay? And I hope that, even if you don't make the decision on your team, that you bring this back to somebody that does, okay? Because these are very simple things. I know you guys all have flat cones. I see them all over the damn place there, okay? So again, that's why I was getting into board work, all right? Something you can make, no excuses, okay? I'll get into that in a second. This thing kind of jumped around, sorry. All right, getting into our punch, okay? Our punch, our base, okay? Excuse me, that's in the Pass Pro. I don't know what kind of, my bad. I'm not very prepared today, I guess. I'll get into pass blocking in a little bit. All right. Next thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, okay, was combo blocks. And when I'm talking about combos, I'm talking combination blocks, all right, between center guard, okay, guard tackle, tackle tight end if you have one, okay? During individual, all right, during individual, we always made it a point, okay, to work, all right, to work our combo blocks. And again, you need to have a plan. Okay. And when I say a plan, I mean something like this, okay, typed out. And I'll share this with you. Okay. I'm not hiding anything from you guys. All right. Now, again, we had more time with those guys, right? So here was our stretch. Great. All right. Monday, we would do a drill called zigzag, then duck in the chutes. All right. 6-point target. That's something you can do. All right. Then we always did, okay, down here, we always did combo blocks. Okay. Combination, front side, okay, and back side. Now I'm going to show you what those combo blocks are and what I mean by that. I think, okay, this is basically the most, if not the most important thing that you can do with those guys. Okay. Because this is stuff, it requires zero equipment. Okay. It requires zero equipment and you practice all the situations. Okay. And when I talk about combo blocks, I'm talking about run blocks. Okay. You can do it with Pass Pro, but I'm talking about run blocks right now. Okay. So I'll get to it and I'll kind of show you. Okay. Now they're doing it from a fit position. Okay. When I say fit, I mean they're already, blocking this guy. Okay. But you can start in your stance. Okay. And you will have a down lineman and a linebacker. Okay. When you're working your combo blocks, your double teams, okay, you need to work it to somebody. I always see a lot of times, okay, guys are working combo blocks, they're double teaming, and then they're double teaming to nobody. Well, that's not going to happen in a game. You're going to be double teaming to somebody. Okay? So have the linebacker here. Okay? Now again, in this picture, right, they're just double teaming and this guy's not moving. Okay, but in reality, okay, this guy's either going to go here, he's going to go here, he might move here. You need to move these guys. Okay, so this looks like the center, okay, and the left guard, and they're working a combo to him. Okay, well, if this guy comes over the top, he's probably going to take him and he's going to lock on to him. Okay, well, if this guy comes this way, he's going to lock on, he's going to pick him up and he's going to lock on to him. Okay, and obviously there's technique and other things behind it. But again, these combination blocks, okay, they're so important because it doesn't matter if you're running power, inside zone, whatever, okay, you're going to have double teams somewhere, okay? You need to train their eyes as much as their body to know where they're looking and what they're doing it to. You can't get mad at O-linemen when you're saying, all right, we're double teaming to the backside linebacker, but you never teach it. You never coach it. And again, this goes back to baby steps, right? So we show one-on-one blocks, all right? So that's just individual footwork, like on the board drills. Now, there's two guys working together, okay? Eventually, you're going to add a third guy, okay? And we call that half line, okay? So these are just combos. Then you have half line. You're going to add a third D lineman, and then you're going to work your blocks that way. And then eventually, you go full line. Okay, you have to make your practice schedule fit that. Even when I was there, okay, in Israel coaching, I found that you had to show those guys how important they were. What do I mean by that? Our O linemen, besides PAT field goal, really did not play special teams. Okay, one, because they're too fat and slow to do it anyways. Okay, and the second thing was I wanted those guys, all right, to really focus on their craft of playing O-line. Okay, so when we were in special teams, they had individual, all right? Some people call it fundamentals, whatever period you want to call it. Then when we went to individual, they had more individual time. So say our special teams period was 20 minutes and our individual period was 20 minutes. Those guys got 40 minutes of individual every practice. Okay, every practice. Because you can't expect those guys to have 10 or 15 minutes of individual and be good. It's just not going to happen. Those guys need time and time and time and time. Okay? So make it a point of emphasis to show those guys. Basically, them and the quarterbacks got the most individual time because, again, during special teams, we didn't have our quarterback in special teams either. So he was getting individual as well. Okay? So I'll kind of show you the combo block. All right? Boom. Working it back. Okay, they're already starting from they're already in their first step, right? So now you see the second step, power into the ground. See how tight his base is, okay? He's really narrow, right? You'd like to see him have a little bit wider base, okay? And then as he snaps off on that guy, he'll have power, okay? So he's talking about him going either way, either direction, okay? He's a little narrow, and now as we lock up, boom, okay? Something that he also talked about that I found really interesting was blocking at the second level, right? We never want to chase linebackers, okay? We want to ride double teams as far as we can, okay, into the linebacker's hip pocket, and then we want to snap off on linebackers, okay? So we want to ride, and then boom, snap off, okay? So again, he coached that. He worked that individual part. So when they did their board drills, right, he would start those guys farther up the board, okay? And then instead of starting them here on the board, he'd start them here and get to the second level and block a linebacker, okay? But to make sure that their base was still wide and that they'd lock up with guys. Because a lot of times you see it, right? A linebacker, okay, is going to be a lot more athletic and faster than an O-lineman. It's just going to happen. So they're going to either slip by that guy or whatever it is, okay? Especially when those guys are out of control and their base is not wide and they're running basic. They're just chasing guys with really narrow feet. There's a reason, all right, nobody picked you when you were playing tag and hide and seek, all right, because you're not very good at it, okay? But what you are good at is having a wide base and locking up with guys and driving them the hell out of there, okay? So play to your strengths and coach those guys to their strengths. So that's some of our run block stuff, okay? I want to get into the pass stuff as well, okay? And then from there, I'll kind of go through some of your guys' questions and stuff like that, all right? For the pass game, again, we want to you can either teach a 3 or a 2-point stance, okay? Again, that goes back to the toolbox like we talked about earlier. You know, we taught guys both, but if the only time we were ever in a 2-point stance was if it was like 3rd and long and we were definitely passing the ball and the defense definitely knew we were passing the ball. Some teams are just always in a 2-point stance. If that's your preference, that's fine. But I think that you teach a 3 and a 2-point stance for pass protection because it just gives those guys another tool in the toolbox to pull out. You know, hey, that guy's just getting killed in his 3-point stance and pass protection. Okay, hey, man, you know, you got to go to your 2-point stance. Let's go to your 2-point stance. All right. We need to learn different sets. Okay. I'm not going to get too in-depth into that. But, you know, you have angle and vertical depending on how the defensive linemen line up. Okay. Our punch. Okay. Again, tight elbows. All right. And we want to stop the bull rush. I'm missing an L. And now I'm adding one. Okay. We want to stop the bull rush and then twists. You know, sometimes you guys will see some twists, but for the most part, a lot of times those D linemen, they're just trying to run right down your midline, okay, and lock up. We never, as an O lineman, okay, a basic rule that we teach those guys, you never want to get beat inside, okay? You never want to get beat inside, and you never want to get bull rushed, okay? Because if you get beat inside or you get bull rushed, good things probably aren't going to happen. The quarterback's getting flustered, all right? He's probably now outside the pocket, okay? So we don't want that to happen. So when you're teaching your pass protection, okay, I'm not even talking about you're blocking this guy, you're blocking that guy. You can just do one-on-ones and tell the defensive lineman, hey, you go inside. All right, so we used to teach that O-lineman, you get your inside knee and you put it right in his crotch and you just mash him down flat, right? We say mash, okay? And then if you're trying to get bull rush, tell that guy, hey, man, just bull rush him. And not concussion drill. Don't tell him bang your head into the O-lineman and blow each other up. We don't want to do that in practice, okay, because, you know, that's the majority of concussions and all that stuff is in practice. We're trying to stay safe. We want to keep our head out of things and our eyes up. But, again, that guy's going right down his midline, tight elbows, and then he should just kind of sit, all right, and drop his weight so that guy can't go through him. And those are two things, right? Don't get beat inside and don't get bull rushed that you can always fall back on. And that has nothing to do with, you know, rules, Okay, that has nothing to do with you're blocking that guy. It's not scheme. Okay, but if those guys understand those two principles, you can build everything off of that. Okay, so the pass game is very similar in terms of, all right, progression teaching. Okay, progression teaching. Start from the beginning. All right, in our pass block, our base is going to stay the same, and our power is going to be through the midline. We want to have our knees bent, okay, and our back in good position. Our hands are going to be 6 inches from extension. Some guys I heard, they teach roll the meatball, so they're kind of rolling their hands, okay, as they're preparing for contact. All right, we always want to have our thumbs up. This is good because this is the same as our run block. Our tight elbows and thumbs up, that's not going to change. So when you reinforce those good habits, okay, they're not only going to make you a better pass or run blocker, if that makes sense. So if I'm always teaching tight elbows, thumbs up in my run game, when I get to the pass game, it shouldn't be any different. Okay, and now I'm just building off of that. And my eyes focused on the aiming point. You know, some guys are going to tell them near shoulder, middle of the inside number. I was really big on being as specific as possible, because when those guys come to the sideline, and you guys know it, they come to the sideline with the most bullshit excuses you've ever heard. Okay, we got to eliminate the excuses. Okay, you know you're at a good point when those guys come to the sideline, you coach them up and they say, yes, coach, and we move on. Okay, very early on when I was there, okay, I would say something and a guy would give me a dissertation on why this was that. I don't have time for this shit. Okay, don't tell me why you didn't do anything. Okay, just say, yes, coach, learn from it and move on, because we don't have time during the game to make 900 adjustments and this and that. And we need boom. We need quick points. You know, how is this guy lined up on you? Thick. Okay, did he give you a bull rush? No, he tried to beat me inside. Great, make sure you match. That's it. It's done. Especially, you know, if say you're a head coach and you're trying to also watch the defense, or you need to watch special teams, but you're, you know, I know it's crazy there. Okay, quick points, no excuses, and the excuses are eliminated. Okay, in practice and film. Okay, film doesn't lie. You know, when we went, a big thing that we did there was watch a lot of film with those guys. Okay, and especially when we had an offensive film session, you can ask the receivers, they were bored as hell, because the majority of the time I was talking to the O-lineman. You know, we only threw the ball about 3 times a damn game anyways, so it didn't matter. But again, all right, those guys, and they needed to see and understand the importance. So when they gave me their bullshit excuse, I would just point to the film and say, well, the film's telling me something and you're telling me something. So one of you's lying, and I don't think it's the camera. Okay? So be able to go back, okay, to the camera. You know, we used to have an excuse chair my first year. Okay? So I would kind of coach the guys up during film, okay? And we had a guy, I won't mention any names, all right? And I tried to coach him up, and he gave me you know, some bullshit excuse. So I said, give him the chair. All right, and he sat on the chair, and the chair broke because he was full of so much shit. Okay, so again, don't let those guys have excuses. Eventually, it was kind of funny, and they kind of got the idea of like, hey, yeah, we are just kind of making up excuses and reasons for everything. All right, and that might happen in your regular life. If you're coaching the high school kids, okay, believe me, they're going to have all sorts of excuses and reasons why they can't do anything. I can't come to practice because I have this and that. And some of them are legitimate. Okay, but the majority of them are not. Okay, so eliminate it early, because it's going to be better in your regular daily life. You're just not going to come up excuses for stuff. You're just going to find solutions. Okay, again, now we're talking about our punch. Okay, so we're in our pass blocking, and now in our punch. Okay, our base will stay the same, knees bent. We don't want to lean. Okay, we don't want to lean forward. And I'll get into the steps soon, but we don't want to lean forward. The force, okay, is delivered through the heel of the hand, our thumbs up, and our arms locked out. Our eyes will be focused, and we don't want to blink, okay? So our eyes, you know, some of those guys, they really force their eyes open if you ever watched them in slow motion, so they can see what they're hitting, okay, and deliver a good blow still with tight elbows and thumbs up. And we don't want to lean forward, because if we do, now there's the D lineman, right? they're going to just kind of try to swim over us or push us forward, whatever it is. So we still want to be nice and balanced and square. You know, that's a big thing with the O-lineman, whether it's run or pass game, right? We want to be balanced, okay, in everything we do, and we want to be square. Now, our weight might be a little more forward or a little bit more backwards, but that doesn't mean that we're not balanced. I shouldn't be able to just kind of barely push you and you're falling over, okay? Again, kind of getting into our progression teaching, okay? You know, sets on air. So now they're here, they're in their 3-point, he's in his 3-point, and he was in his 2-point, okay? And now you can break everything down because those guys are just freezing, right? Here, flat back, okay, good bend in the knees, okay, tight elbows, thumbs up, and you can go and kind of break down everything. You know, with that being said, okay, don't give those guys mental overload, especially new guys. If you come up to a new guy and you're working pass pro and you say, okay, your feet are like this and your ankles are like that and your knees need to be like this and your hip needs to, it's way too much. Way too much. Okay? So, hey, if you just want to work on the lower portion first with those guys, great. Do that. If you just want to work on the upper body portion first, great. Do that. I would start from the ground up. I would start with the feet, but, you know, to each his own. Okay? Again, they're just working pass pro. Okay, their first step in pass protection on air. This is stuff you can do in the off season, man. Okay, after we would do after we would do our speed and agility stuff, like our off season stuff, we would maybe do like 15 or 20 minutes of football related activity. Okay, and with those guys, it's really important because this is your time to build that foundation with them. Okay, and really start it from the ground up. This is stuff you can do. Have 2 or 3 drills, about 5-6 minutes each. Okay. And hey, we're just working first step and it's a progression. Okay. Those guys aren't in helmets. They're not in shoulder pads. They're not working twists and all this and that. They're working real basic stuff. Okay. And this is Penn State. So if Penn State can do it and it's good enough for them, it's definitely good enough for us. Okay. Here's working with the sandbag, working their punch and their deliver. And I'll send this stuff to you. Don't worry. Okay. Oops. Trying to get into talked about the stance, pass block, punch, progression teaching, finish, making sure I covered everything with you guys. Kind of looks like it. All right, so I kind of got through some of that stuff. So with that being said, I'll kind of get into some of the questions if you guys have any. Let me just pull it back up, sorry. And kind of see what's going on. Stop share. Okay, does anybody have any questions about anything? I'm going to send you guys that stuff and we can kind of break it back down from the beginning. Just how do you want them to do the questions, or you want them to send them in the chat, or you want them to ask out loud?
Yeah, חבר'ה, אם יש שאלות, זה הזמן. הנה, כבר מתחילים. Here you go. You've got one. If you want, okay. Do you see it?
Yeah, I see it. All right, so as a quarterback, what can I do in order to help my line? That's a good question. I think the first thing is understanding their rules. As a quarterback, okay, you should know what's kind of going on in the field anyways, right? So a lot of times those guys are very focused on, all right, yeah, this pass concept and that pass concept, but you need to understand pass protection, okay, what your rules are, the run game, where's the run game trying to hit. You should have a grasp of everything that's really going on, okay? And another big thing that's going to help those guys is give them some love when they do things right. Okay, because I've been around people that the only time the quarterback ever says anything to the O-line is when they're getting hit or they mess up. What are you doing? What's going on? Well, and then when they do something right or they score a touchdown, they don't say anything to them. Well, you got to give them positive reinforcement. You're right. Sometimes when they don't do something right, you need to get on those guys. Okay. But when they do something really well, you better show them a lot of love. So that's a good question. The next one, when having a lineman rapping, saying power, would you have him skip pull? We always taught that guy to bucket pull. All right, to bucket step and pull around. We used to skip pull, but it kind of takes a long time. I know a lot of people like teaching skip pull because their shoulders get square, but we tell those guys now kind of ID it, drive with that first step, with that bucket step, okay, and then get their shoulders square and get around an ID. So we kind of got away from the skip pull stuff because we just think it just takes too long, and it didn't met. You know, and that kind of gets back to like run game stuff. Your O-line and your running back should mirror each other, okay? So if the O-line blocking doesn't mesh with the running back, it's not good, okay? You can't block things in the gun and under center the same way, because in the gun, a lot of times that the running back is one by one. And in the home position, when you're under center, that running back's directly behind at 7 yards. Well, these aren't the same distances. So it's not going to mesh up exactly the same way. So you kind of need to determine, hey, are we going to run most of our stuff from the gun? Are we going to be under center? If we're going to mix it up, how are we going to be able to adjust it that it fits both? So that's a good question. Limited time during practice in Israel. What are the basic drills you should do every Indy? Good question. So I'll send you, let me share it again with you guys. I'll share, make sure I got it. I'm going to share this with you guys. Okay. I thought that the most important drill we basically did was zigzag. We always did zigzag drill. Okay. So you'd start from a fit position. Okay. You'd start locked up with him, your other O lineman, and you're just driving your feet about, 10 yards, and that the defender is just trying to zigzag back and forth, because that's going to happen throughout a game. You're not going to lock up with a D lineman. Okay. You're not going to lock up with a D lineman and that guy's just going to be, oh, thank you for blocking me. I appreciate it. I'm going to wait right here for you to block me. He's going to be moving around. Okay. So we did that. We did 6-point target drill. Definitely got into combo blocks. But again, we didn't mix up our drills like every practice. A lot of the things, the core stuff that we did was every single practice. Now, we would make it maybe an adjustment here or there with a drill. But those guys need to come to practice knowing what they're doing, okay? Knowing what they're doing. If you just come to practice and you have 10 new drills every practice, well, you're wasting half of practice explaining what the hell you're trying to do. So you don't get anything done. So you know what? If you say you have time for 5 drills, maybe 4 of them are your everyday drills, EDDs, that's what we would call it. And then maybe 1 you'd make an adjustment or teach a new one, but you would still utilize it. So that's good. And I'll send you that. And then if you have questions on what those drills are, I'll try to get you some videos and things that mix it in. So good question. Any tips for mixed experience training, rookies along with veterans? All right, good question. Oh, I knew it'd be a good question from you, David. All right. So again, we would bring the rookies in early, okay, and just kind of teach them real basic stuff, stance, and start. And then I thought that when those guys combined, and I enjoyed it in terms of teaching those guys, bringing them on. The best example I can think of, all right, and I know I'm going to miss some names, but we had Nati and Inon, okay? And then we had a good group of guys in Amir, Ayal, and Anair came over, okay? And those guys had a really good work ethic, and they knew what I was expecting from them. All right. Now the rookies, they kind of see those guys and how they're working, and they say, hey, that's the way we need to do things. Okay. And it started in the very first day in our off-season stuff. Okay. And again, even though those guys, Amir, Ayal, they knew what was expected, we'd start from the ground up. We wouldn't speed through things. So it was almost like everybody was on day one together. So I would bring the rookies in early and go over some basic stuff. But then once we got into it, hey, seeing guys and seeing how they're working and what they know, that brings guys along, that motivates guys. So that's a good question. So I think, having a high expectation, but also understanding as a coach, like they're not going to be as far advanced right away. You have to be realistic of the situation. All right. Got that one. How can a line train on communication? Really good question. Okay. Really good question. That's probably something I should have put in my presentation. All right. No communication is a dead line. What do I mean by that? Those guys should be talking on every single play. Those combo blocks that I showed you, they should be named. Okay. So you can name your front side or your play side blocks A, B, C. And then on the back side, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So again, A, right? Hey, we're working our double team to the play side linebacker. That's the center and the guard. When the guard and tackle work together, B. Okay. But when you guys are doing combo blocks, they should be communicating. And that's an individual. So it becomes a habit. You can't just tell those guys to communicate when you're working like your team period or your best on best. It's in everything they do. So even when they go over to individual, all right, especially in combo blocks, they should be naming them. And then when you bring them in for film, hopefully you get a little bit of film time, right? You ask them questions. Hey, we called inside zone and we have a double team with the center and the guard. What should we be saying? Hey. Or, hey, we're double teaming to the backside here. What should we be calling it? Zorro. You can call it asparagus. I don't really give a shit. All right, as long as those guys know, all right, what the hell each communication means. If they know what it means, that's the important thing. And sometimes stuff like that, it's nice for those guys because it gives them, it gives them ownership of it, and it feels like it's theirs. We ran like a one-back power at the high school, and we would do different guys would pull depending on the defensive front. So those guys had to communicate it to each other. So the names they came up for were Cake, Burger, and Taco, because they're O-linemen and they like to eat. So the Cake meant the center was pulling, Burger was the guard, and Taco was the tackle. Okay, so you can call it shawarma and falafel. I don't really care. Okay, as long as those guys know what to do. All right. Can you share how you did you teach double team and Mascara? You guys did it very well in your run game. Okay, again, that goes back to our combo blocks. We worked our combination blocks, every single practice, so they knew where they were working to. I was big, we didn't really run very much power. We ran more inside zone. So what we would teach those guys is there was a drive guy and a post guy. So if you had a guy lined up outside you and we're running the ball that way, you're the drive guy. You're trying to drive him off the ball, The post guy, who's helping you, he's posting here with his inside hand, and he's still pumping and working, Both their eyes should be up to the linebacker, Again, if that linebacker fires to me, I should be saying me. And then the guy you're working with should be saying you. Or if he's going over the top, you should say you, me. So a lot of it was communication. A lot of it was working combos. And you know what? I would say that was the majority of it there because our technique was okay. It wasn't anything special. We don't have enough time. We didn't practice 5 days a week. We practiced twice a week. So our technique was all right. But a lot of it was those guys knew where they were working, Their eyes were up, and they worked combo blocks all the time, And that helped those guys, all right? Who on the line should give out calls? I think all those guys should talk. Sometimes the center, he might ID the Mike linebacker, depending on what you're running and what you're doing. That's okay. But I think, hey, we always said echo the call. So if the guard and tackle are working together and it's a BBB, they should be saying, hey, BBB, or hey, AAA. So they should echo the calls. If there's a guy, that's not talking, I'll tell the other guys to be quiet until he talks. Put the pressure on him because everybody across the O-line should talk and have communication. The nicest thing, I think the greatest thing to see is when those O-linemen, after a drive, whether you score or you don't score, they come back to the sideline. Hopefully you have somewhere for them to sit, Okay, allow them to sit in between drives. Those are big guys. And they're sitting there and they're still communicating what's going on. Hey, what did your guy do? What? Okay, those guys should be communicating throughout the game. Throughout the game. Okay, not just on the field, but on the sideline as well. Okay, how would you coach blocking for QB rollouts, pull, reach, or something else? So if you're talking about just straight like sprint, we taught the front side guys to reach block. And then we would always have, it would usually be to the tight end side and have the running back also help for the end man because we wanted the extra help to that side. So we would just teach those guys to pull. Now on the backside, we would tell those guys to fall on a wall. So they would cut off anything on their inside gap, right? So you're the backside guard, cut off that backside A gap, and then make them go the long way all the way around you. Okay? So that's a good question. Hopefully that answers it. Our O-line players always change during offseason and during season. Which pass pro screens would you suggest for a team that always has new diff? So I think the basic one to teach is just full slide. Okay. So you make a call, and if it's even, they all slide right or left, however you want to do it. And then the running back fits outside. I'm not a big fan of full slides. I just think that we have a saying, okay, and I told you guys, excuse my French, but you want your fighters to fight and your effers to F, okay? And your O-linemen are fighters, and your running backs are not necessarily, okay? So when you full slide and you have either a running back trying to block a D lineman, okay, that's not putting your running back in a successful situation to block somebody, okay? So you can't get mad, well, you didn't block that guy. Well, that guy's like 280 pounds and your running back's like 190. Okay, so you're not putting him in a good situation to be successful. So, you can teach full slide. I think that's the easiest thing probably to do. Or you can just teach man-on blocking and say, hey, you 5 handle those 5, and kind of do it like that. We would switch it up. We would do some different things. But, that kind of goes back to that flexible but firm. Okay, I was really firm on what we were going to do in pass protection. Like that was non-negotiable for me. So I didn't care if they were new or different. They were going to figure out how we were going to do it. So find a plan, find something that you want to do in pass protection and stick with it. And either they're going to catch on or they're not going to catch on. But that's what you got to stick with, because if you're constantly changing things and moving things, it's no good, right? It's just like, they don't know when it's going to change or what's going to happen, and you don't know if it's going to change or it's going to happen. You can't constantly change stuff, guys. You know what? Sometimes you have a plan and you just need to stick with it, okay, and just teach it, and you'll be okay. Early on there, we had a plan, okay? We had a plan of how we wanted to do things, and believe me, the first season was really ugly, really ugly. I think we lost by one game we lost by 60 points, I think. Okay, and our record might not reflect it, but that last year we lost, I want to say 5 or 6 games by 7 points or less. All right, and I'm not saying, hey, whoop-de-doo, we lost games by 6 or 7 points or less. Okay, but it was also, we had a plan and things that we wanted to do, and we stuck with it, and we knew over time it would develop. And sometimes you guys need to be more with a long-term approach, even though your players might switch over. Okay, they have a saying. First, you lose by a lot, then you lose by a little. Then you win by a little, then you win by a lot, and then you don't win big enough and they fire you. Okay? So just keep with your plan, stick with it, it will be okay. Good question. Should we be scared about giving away who we are blocking? Hell no. You know what? Good. If you're run blocking and you tell guys who you're run blocking and you still block them, good for you. All right? We would call it out. All right? We would ID guys. We'd point to it. Who cares? There's a reason they play D-line, okay? Because they're really not bright. I always found my O-linemen to be my smartest guys, okay? I just thought that they were smart. They had to understand the big concept and the big picture. We don't teach D-linemen the same way, okay? So it doesn't matter if you ID them or you call it out. And half the time, they're not listening or really know what's going on anyways. You could say AAA or BBB the whole game, and they won't know what you're doing. Okay, so that's not a big deal. Don't worry about that so much. All right. How involved should the lineman be in teaching running backs and or wide receivers to block? Okay, so the question was, how involved should linemen be in teaching running backs and or wide receivers to block, and how much of the line techniques carry over to other positions? I find that there's real basic fundamentals in football, real basic fundamentals. And really a lot of them are learned in special teams, okay? But blocking, okay, blocking especially, it all carries over, all right? Now, where it's located on the field is different. Wide receivers tend to block more in space. Running backs are in it when they're pass blocking are in a tight picture as well. Okay, but tight elbows, thumbs up, head located, not getting bull rushed or beat inside, those things carry over. Okay, now with that being said, I think that your running backs, okay, should get at least a period of a week, okay, even if it's for 4 or 5 minutes, doing some sort of pass protection. You can't have guys do stuff in the game that you don't practice, okay? You can't throw the ball 50 times a game, okay? Have your running backs pass protect 50 times a game and never practice it, right? So those guys can come over even with the O-line. So they understand, you know, in your scheme, hey, this guy's inserting here or he's, you know, wherever he's blocking, okay? And then let him get a couple reps, okay? That guy should still have tight elbows, thick and inside, okay? The difference is that his collision, okay, it's coming from a wider gap, okay? It's coming more downhill where you, a lot of times as an O-lineman, yours is coming within like 2 steps, okay? Same with wide receivers. Now they're blocking more in space, but their eye should be located on the inside or the outside number. They should have tight elbows. They should have thumbs up and a good base when they're blocking. So that stuff, yeah, blocking is blocking. So now you teaching them, they might be resistant to it. All right, so you have to find a way that incorporates them in, even if it's in the off season where everybody's just together and you're teaching the basic fundamentals of blocking, okay, the real basic fundamentals, not from a schematic standpoint or from space or anything. Hey, this is how we block guys, tight elbows, thumbs up, whatever. And then that will carry over. So that's a good question. That's stuff you can teach in the off season. What kind of work do you guys do to build that ankle flexibility and range of motion? Good question.
That's going to be our last question. Sorry.
Okay, and I'll send you guys my number. Okay, just text me on WhatsApp. Okay, I'm always here for you guys. If you have questions about anything, let me know. I'm a resource for you guys, I hope, and I just want to help you guys out and help football out there. So I'll give you guys my number. I'm always up, and I like to talk about football a lot more than other stuff. So the ankle flexibility and range of motion. Okay, so a real basic one that you guys can do, you know, in the off season, 2 days a week, have your O-lineman do it. So with each foot, all right, front and backs, 10 of them, and get good flexion. Okay, and then windshield wipers side to side. Okay, and it's real basic, but it kind of loosens those guys up. And their hips, when you're warming up with those guys, you need to make sure that you're warming up all 4 parts of the hip. Okay, so a lot of times guys warm up their hips forward, but they don't do it side to side. Okay, and just you can do basic things. We used to hang on to the gate and do leg swings. Okay, so now we would do leg swings side to side, and we do leg swings back and forth. Okay, so you can give those guys kind of basic, you know, basic things like that. And I have a off-season thing that I can send you. You know, if you guys text me, I'll share my number really quick with you, and then you know, I'll send you whatever I have. I'm not a hoarder, so I'll share my number with them really quick, Ori.
Yeah, go ahead. Meanwhile, I'll say something. First of all, thank you, Harrison, that was great. למי ששאל לגבי הרצאות קודמות, יש לנו את זה באתר, בחלק של המאמנים, יש חלק של פוטבול פלוס, אז אנחנו מעלים שם את כל ההרצאות, וגם בעמוד היוטיוב של ההתאחדות, נקרא כמו כל הרשתות החברתיות שלנו. Again, Harrison, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're showing your number, so that everybody.
Yeah, did you guys get it, or you didn't see it again?
I don't think they saw it. Write it in the chat as well. So, but if you want to, we don't see. We see only the top of the O-line presentation.
All right, here we go. I'll send it. Here, I'll put it in the group, fellas.
Yeah, just put it in chat. אז חבר'ה, תודה רבה. נתראה בחמישי. Harrison, thank you. That was great.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it. And again, if you guys ever need anything, just reach out and let me know. I'm wishing you guys luck, and hopefully everybody's family is safe and sound.
Thank you. Just write in the chat so everybody can see. I will leave it on for another minute so everybody can see it.
Let me send it.
If you want to write it. Here you go. אוקיי, אז תודה רבה לכולם, אני אשאיר את זה עוד חצי דקה דולק, לאחר מכן אני אנתק. Thank you.
Thank you guys, see ya.
See you.